Welcome to Cybertopia cast interviews. These have all gone perfectly fine so far, but for some reason on this one we kept having issues with the recording software, and actually this final version was the third time of trying, and even then wasn't entirely smooth. So yeah, you'll notice this was a bit shorter than others, but I hope you'll still enjoy my chatting with the illustrious Keith. Welcome to Cybertopia cast interviews. Today we are talking to Keith, who played as Cookie Standard in Cybertopia. Keith, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about Cookie?
So, hi, I'm Keith, he, him. I'm a programmer and occasional role-playing game typesetter from Britain who lives in Sweden, and I played Cookie during Cybertopia. And Cookie is ostensibly a talent agent for Amazing Core, or was. Blackmailed his way up the corporate ladder in the music division for Amazing Core until pushing his luck a little too much, and Amazing Core found that his chance for spying on people and sourcing spy gear and all these other things made a great swap from talent agent to secret agent. So he ends up being a face and a sleazeball for the Tabula Rasa group.
I love the built-in backstory here of accidentally becoming a master spy, basically, right?
Just by doing office politics in the cyberpunk future, you end up being someone who's great at planting hidden cameras or overhearing drama and spinning it to your own ends. And there's a massive crossover between that and information security, which I wanted to play on. I like the idea of a talent agent becoming a secret agent.
Yeah, and you're all into like the social engineering side of things and manipulation. It was very, very fun to play with.
He's also just the worst. I have no qualms about saying that Cookie is just one of the worst people in the world. You'd probably like him in the moment and then just wake up the following morning and go, God, that guy's a sleazeball. Why did I spend the entire evening talking to him?
But he's not like leaning into the corporate stooge side of things. He's just a bad person, right?
Yeah, he's just a bad person. He's just the type of person who sees the corporate ladder as the thing to speedrun, to climb up as fast as possible, and that's clearly backfired for him catastrophically. So
yeah. So I wonder, with his kind of lack of loyalty, at least lack of company loyalty, does that extend to people as well? How does he feel about the people he has been on missions with?
So I imagine we come to Cookie at this crossroads where he's actually realised that burning every bridge that he's ever built doesn't really work for him. The nature of being in Tabula Rasa is you don't really get to know everyone. You're on a different mission with different people each time. Mm-hmm. So this is Cookie realising, this is what this feels like of not being able to trust people. So I think eventually he starts to get to know people. There are at least 2 or 3 of the player characters he's gotten on well enough with during the missions, but I think there might be room for character growth for him there. It's just, will he survive long enough to realise it, I wonder.
Made an interesting point there that I'd never really considered, I don't think, or maybe subconsciously considered, but the shifting of the teams each time for each mission does stop you or lessens the chance of you making the personal connections with other characters. So yeah, that would be a kind of ingenious way to control and to stop people having their personal lives affecting their activities and their actions within Tabula Rasa. Yeah, interesting.
You mean this wasn't a subtle criticism of corporate culture and how it tries to dehumanize us all, Ben?
Oh, just regular reorgs, man. Like, you got to keep people on their toes. Yeah.
We're not at all cynical here.
So you mentioned you made some particular connections with some of the characters. Any favourites that you played with?
So the final mission, it was
bonkers, man.
It was amazing. Like, House of Cards was fantastic. I've listened to it again recently just to go through and hear it from most of the other team's perspectives. But the social engineering team on the ground floor, which I was part of, was absolutely perfect. It was great playing with the party team. It was great playing with Mark, Jen, and Jeff through this one. And yeah, we broke it. We broke the entirety of that.
Well, it morphed from being something fairly kind of innocuous, we're going to be just going in and providing drinks or something, to just being a full-on rave riot. And it was ridiculous. And it just kept on barreling forwards. And the way you all bounced off each other.
Putting the keg of beer in a tea urn and then it graduating to disco balls to rave pit to the entire building exploding, which Cookie still has no idea why it's happened. I barely have any idea why it happened. Sewer team, god damn it.
And it went through quite a roller coaster as well, because you got everyone warmed up and you had them having some drinks, and then the party started going. And then the nerve gas started coming through the vents. And you started getting a bit of argy-bargy. There was some people being like, oh, actually, Amazing Co-op's great because of the nerve gas. And other people being like, what the fuck? And at that exact moment was when Jeff decided he's going to put on a dance-off.
Best way to diffuse, stroke, accelerate the situation possible. Like,
absolutely
it's
ridiculous.
Amazing. Yes, I loved having Tim's in that party, just leading the way. It's like, oh, this is someone who almost believes their own hype. At this juncture, the best version of a TV host you could get.
Yeah.
And then you've obviously got Sir Igrum being played by Mark, and one of those absolutely in isolation, batshit crazy character concepts. Like, here's a cyborg made mostly of tea, but it works, especially when paired up with Maurice being played by Jen, which is Jen's great. Oasis is great. I'm sure you'll put a link to Tales from the Oasis in the show notes, but I'd heard Jen playing on that before, and having the diner cyborg on this entire group.
You know, in hindsight, the one regret I have about that finale, the one thing I regret is not getting to the point of the foam party that she'd gotten set up. I definitely should have activated that before you got to that final putting the key in the door moment before everything came tumbling down.
Yeah, so I loved being in the social team. Like, I was good in the social team mission, but just the other three coming from such a chaotic Bavarian Viagel style attitude of, we're doing this now, everyone. It's like, well, I guess we're doing this now. You've addressed the entire group and we're doing this now. All three of them just barreling through into it, while I go, well, I guess I'll lock the doors that we were meant to do and do all the other bits of the mission.
You were the sensible one.
When I'm the sensible one, things are like. So I loved that. I loved that entire mission so much.
You were more sensible than even the T-Robot, so yeah. It was a great session to run as well, because I barely had to do anything.
We made you work.
I didn't have to shepherd or anything. I just had to react to whatever nonsense you were all doing, and it just worked.
We made you work. We made you roll dice.
Yeah, you did make me roll dice eventually. Yeah, that happened. And there was some great lore that came out of that group as well. And, I mean, you were also in the Signs of the Times episode where we did the player-led lore dumps as well.
I'm pretty sure we invented an entire genre of music in that one.
You were also great at coming up with just stuff to add to the world. And you continued doing that into the finale as well there. That there was so much that came out of both of those episodes, both of those sessions that we ran. And it's definitely stuff that's going to feed into the future as well. Like the whole T-Cult stuff that Mark started is definitely going to be a thing that expands into season 2 in some way. I'm sure that is not the end of the T-Cult. So, yeah.
It's important in role-playing games to have a conversation with the GM and the players. It can't just be GM sets a railroad in front of players and say, well, this is the world I've crafted every inch of. That's one way to get everyone very disappointed. Like, no one wants to play in a too rigid theme park. You want the room to explore and play about. And certainly when I've been GMing things before, I've appreciated it when players come to me with like, can this be a feature in the world? And I go, yes, that's way better than everything I've ever thought about. And you've already got it in your head. You run with this ball. I get to sit back, relax, and just see this beautiful world you're crafting and steer it in the direction I want it to. Kind of like bonsai growing or tree pruning or all these other things going, yes, I get to see this thing grow and shape it the way I wanted to. And now I did that.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that you say that, actually, because, like, I mean, every mission, everything that we ran through was basically something that I'd written in the core book for Cybertopia in the system. The missions were all missions from that book. And they're all pretty self-contained. They have an objective. You have your area that you've got to kind of stay in to achieve whatever you're trying to achieve. So I always felt like it was a little bit railroady, but some groups, in particular your ones, all managed to very much make them their own and expand them in their own ways. And that's brilliant. And I'm really looking forward to, I can't remember if I told you this before, but in season 2, I'm basically going to make it almost entirely player-led. I'm opening out the world and I'm going to make it a bit more steady group. So probably have you in the same group for 4, 5, 6 sessions. So then you can develop those character relationships and develop your own kind of character arcs and stuff. And then you get to shape the world. You get to decide where you're going to go in the city or what kind of objectives you're going to go for.
It's going to be interesting to see Cookie try and survive that type of situation. Like, Cookie very much, he needs the company as a support system. He needs that type of rigid structure to work in. He's very, very much a house cat. And
yeah,
it's going to be very, very fun to see what he does as effectively a burned secret agent, or depending on exactly which way you go with this thing. Like, the impression I got from the end of House of Cards was that Amazing Corp might have accidentally just blown us all up and might be disavowing us all as a result. We'll find out, though.
Yeah, so I suppose that's the next stage of this interview, of finding out what you think Cookie would do in the future. Assuming he is no longer employed by Amazing Corp, he's out in the world on his own, he no longer has his corporate structure for his comfort zone. Mm-hmm. What would be his immediate kind of route?
So there's no other game in town in the Cybertopia universe. It's all Amazing Corp, isn't it? There might be subsidiaries, but everything fundamentally
some smaller outfits and stuff. But yeah, essentially they are the big dog.
Yeah. So where do you go when the biggest game in town says, or at least heavily implied, that you're no longer welcome here under any circumstances? We blew up the building you're in. So that's going to be very interesting for Cookie, especially with his skill set being so much of the face and the schmoozer, the talker, and the spy. I know there's plenty of underground elements, though, that have taken an interest, certainly in the stuff that Amazing Corp's been up to, that Cookie's been personally involved with. The Data Broker is probably the biggest name on that list. We encountered them during the first ever Cybertopia mission, where I rolled the first ever dice roll and got the first natural one.
Yes. Excellent moment. Perfect. It set the bar so well.
Destined to happen. So I imagine Cookie will probably start with finding some structure he can kudzu into, like find a place he can go into, like a fine mold.
Do you think he'd try to seek out someone like the Data Broker to get information and find out what really happened and all that?
I think certainly he'd try and find someone to make sure he's not going to immediately fall apart tomorrow and wake up without a roof over his head and people shooting at him with guns. Cookie very much values a nice sedentary lifestyle as far as sedentary lifestyles of a secret agent can go.
I suppose he's not a leader, is he? He's an operative.
He's very much a leech. He's a leech.
Yeah.
He's a leech and an operative.
That's it, yeah.
He needs something to suck onto, is the thing. Like Ramora, he just needs to cling onto something and go, yep, this is the biggest shark in town. I'm safe here for a moment.
So, in terms of how Cookie fits into the world, I don't know how many of the other episodes you listened to. Were there any that you thought Cookie would have been really good in this one?
So I've not listened to a lot of it, but I did listen to all of the House of Cards, and listening to it's like, no, I'm happy in the social team. But I do wonder if there's a bit more of the crossover that could be done where Cookie ends up being the face in a team which requires everyone to specialize. Like all the missions Cookie went on were very, very good social engagements for him, and like perfect strike teams of deliver all these experts into this area who are great at what they do and get into a secret back room in a club or get into the factory floor and deal with all these all these free groups of anti-corporate people to make sure they get caught in a building. But there's very much a few characters. They would be interesting to see how they bounce off of Cookie and have some mixed teams of where some social grace is required and then big guns can come out for places where it's required.
Yeah, so I mean, I think in almost all of the missions, there was always some aspect that would be good for having a social person involved. I think they're all kind of set up in that sort of way. The only one I can think of that wasn't really that way was the Harboring a Grudge, the very last mission before the finale, where it was a heist from a harbour impound lot, which was almost entirely automated security.
Yeah.
But I suppose even then you get to use your spy skills rather than your social stuff.
Exactly.
Would have been a very different environment. So
yeah,
I think that's the beauty of it all, and the way that everyone set up their characters. Of no one was so specialized that they wouldn't be applicable in a particular mission.
We'd all set up our characters in a vague enough way to be able to talk our way into a lot of skills, and a lot of our cybernetics and a lot of our equipment could be used in a can this kind of work for this situation? Can I sneak by with this? Can I smooth my way into this with this stat? And you're a very lovely GM, so you let us get away with so much. Listening again to House of Cards, we managed to pile on so many dice bonuses to get ourselves like some ridiculous stats of rolling 25 even before we hit criticals.
Yeah. And I mean, like, even the dice rolls themselves for your group were generally really, really good, even before the modifiers. So, yeah, just very lucky on that one. Like, the moments with the crit fails and the crit successes, they really made the whole story. There was never a moment where it felt like everything was going to shit. It was always, if you rolled a crit fail, it was fun. And everyone would just roll on and keep on barreling forwards. And yeah, it just really worked with the way that everyone just reacted to everything and would just pile in and try and resolve anything that was going on. And yeah, it was really good.
It's been great. I love it.
One of the things that I really appreciated about the very first episode, Thieves in the Nightclub, was that you all kind of split off and did your own little things in different areas. But it never felt like it was 4 separate people doing separate things. Like, it still felt like a whole team working together. And it wasn't like a split the party situation where everyone's off completely doing different things.
Yeah, we're all unified towards the goal, and I think that's the distinction to make for splitting a party in a role-playing game. When people complain about splitting the party, it's never on the lines of, oh, you're all separated and isolated, but you're all working towards the same thing. It's always the case of, oh, this person's off doing a completely different, possibly even counterintuitive or counter mission thing. But we all looked at the nightclub and went, okay, I'll handle that, you handle this. I fell over immediately, but everyone else kind of covered for it. And we all managed to find our way eventually to the back room, maybe more through kismet, through chance.
Yeah, but you also, in the process, you kept on like coming back to each other as well and like meeting up again and exchanging information and doing little bits that would help each other out. Like you'd put the bug on the waiter guy and...
That poor waiter.
Oh, man.
Oh...
Your face when I remember when we were doing the Signs of the Times episode, did you realise that the waiter in the restaurant was that same waiter? And you were like, I'm just going to step outside.
Cookie finally having a moment of remorse.
Yeah. Was it actually remorse or was it awkwardness or just trying to not be spotted sort of thing? Like, how moral is he?
Parts of all that, but I think mainly Cookie is still in talent agent mode and very much lines of, what do you mean you didn't take this person I personally recommended for you? More insulted at the company going, this guy could have been the best art model ever and you're just wasting his talent and mine. More importantly, mine.
You're wasting all our time, damn it, Janet. Oh, yeah, that was good stuff. So, that guy, a potential loose end that may reappear in Season 2. Any other loose ends that you'd be interested in following up on in Season 2?
I already mentioned the data broker.
Yeah.
I think we'd have to spend some time with Cookie and some scenes to work out whether he takes having a factory drop on his head personally or not. For all his faults, Cookie has been fairly professional in everything and hasn't taken, being locked in a cryogenics tube for months at a time too personally. It's kind of just part of the job and, hey, the bank account's still gathering interest, so what do you care? But I wonder if being trapped in a place that fell into a sewer sinkhole and exploded and was full of nerve gas would tip him over the edge of going, maybe I shouldn't be working for this lot. We'll find out, I'm sure. That's a Season 2 question.
Yeah. I suppose there's room there for whatever character arc you feel like at the time. Is it something that you would think about in advance, or would you be the kind of person that is reactive arcing?
I prefer to play to find out what happens.
Yeah.
I've had that drilled into me through playing a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse games over the past 10 years or so, and
I love a Powered by the Apocalypse game.
Yeah. Play to find out what happens. Drive your characters like stolen cars. Just don't go into too much preconception. Don't come with 10 pages of backstory. Have a character summary that can fit into a tweet and get going. Start playing that character. Play it with other people. Play it bouncing off other people's ideas. And generally have lots of fun with it. So, yeah, I won't be coming to Season 2 with a huge set of notes for Cookie, aside from maybe a vague direction I want him to go into, and then we'll see where it goes through from there.
Do you think he'll stick with the kind of talent scout thing? like, it's not the sort of thing you can do outside of an organization, really.
It's really hard to be a freelance talent agent when there's only one person buying the media.
Yeah.
But I imagine it'll still be something he looks at and goes, no, if I find just that one act, if I find the 2060s version of Beyonce, that's the A ticket right there. Just find your new Taylor Swift, find your new Beyonce, and just
any agent only needs one hit, right? That's it.
Just needs the one client to make it big and then get 10% from that for the rest of your life, you know?
Always on the grift. I get you. Nice.
So I think he'll shift more into being a freelance rogue operative, you know, doing a lot more of the sneak thieving, the private investigating stuff. We'll see what circumstances he finds himself in, as the case may be. But I imagine he'll still be going down to establishments, listening for the next big voice or finding the next big artist, or casually looking around like, oh, this is an interesting piece of graffiti. I wonder who tagged this. And, you know, they got some art to them. Maybe this is the new Banksy.
Hey, I could make you big in the underground. Yeah.
Exactly. There's more than one measure of success. There's only one measure of your bank account, but there's more than one measure of success.
So, I mean, you said that I'm a very generous game runner. I do plan in Season 2, you're going to have dramatically reduced skill and item points. You're not going to have access to the Amazing Core Armory or download systems anymore. What would be the kind of signature items and signature things that you would want to keep for Cookie?
So I'm very keenly aware that every mission I went on, I had facial recognition and micro-emotion social analysis package, the frame cybernetics. So they're built into Cookie. They're not going anywhere, I don't think, unless Amazing Core is going to wrench them out of his face. So they're sticking with him, but I imagine a lot of his spy gear, certainly all the double diamond black credit card,
just miscellaneous spy tools.
Certainly all the bribes, the credit cards, the company finances, all these other things that he was able to like splash cash around to buy his way through things. That's probably going to be a bit harder to get, which is it's going to be interesting because that means Cookie's not going to just throw money to get past the doorman or anything. He's going to actually have to start to play hardball with intimidation tactics or reading people, or
he may be able to find those sorts of resources again somehow. Like, he's been on heists before, so
don't think you'll be able to find credit cards. Yeah, so there's certainly going to be a lot more of the sneak thief aspect of him coming out at some point.
Yeah, very cool. I've got to ask, the name, Cookie Standard, where's that come from?
The gold standard.
Why Cookie?
So Cookie I chose because I'd been playing a lot of Jackbox games, and the host for You Don't Know Jack is Cookie. But it also seemed like just enough of an out there name to be something that'd be popular in 30 years' time.
Yeah, no, fair.
It sounds conventional enough to be fine for the next 30 years. And so, yeah, Cookie stuck with it for that name.
It's almost like the sort of name you'd get for like a Matrix character. Cypher, Mouse, Cookie.
I can't imagine the Wachowskis ever named a character Cookie. I think they've both got far more integrity than that.
Yeah, probably. So I don't think many people are going to have any of these sorts of moments, but was there any times where you've regretted an action that you took or a decision that you made during the game?
I don't think, like, as a player, I have any regrets. I'm sure Cookie does. But I, as a player, have played Cookie the way I think I should have played him. I probably should have played him even more of a bastard, but it's really hard to get going. The real problem with playing a villain in a TTRPG is everyone's got to consent to it. And yes, we're all playing corporate hit squads. At the end of the day, we're all playing generally not very nice people. But there's a difference between playing someone who's not very nice and someone who everyone at the table actively hates.
Yeah.
And you've got to kind of grow into that. You've got to have the reputation of like, oh yeah, you're the sleazeball. Yes, I should make sure my wallet is still on me at the end of the day. And yes, I expected you to do that.
And I mean, as much as that's how you describe Cookie, I don't think anyone else feels that way about him. Everyone seemed to like him.
I mean, that's the intent for him. He should be likable. Everyone should go, yeah, but why do I like him? He's just a jerk. And I think I needed to play that a bit more at the front. But we'll see how that goes next time, whether him being on his own hardens him up and makes him even worse, or whether it makes him actually generally a nice person to be around.
Yeah, that could be an interesting arc. It's the reverse heel turn.
or the double heel turn. We don't know.
Yeah. Oh, the 360. Yeah, interesting.
Immediate heel turn into heel turn. I've not watched wrestling for a few weeks. I don't know what's currently going on.
So you mentioned you've played a lot of PBTA in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Are you into the lighter side of games in general, or do you like a mix of crunch as well? Like, what is your preferred game type, if any?
You know the answer. Yeah, so probably a good time to talk about my history of role-playing games. So you and I both know each other from Nick's channel, his Cursedness, where we both played in his various D&D 5th edition games. I was in Guild of Icons, which is just wrapped up recently this year. After, I believe it's 3 or 4 years total. I was in it for 2 of them.
Yeah, I've started listening to it from the very start. I'm like 10 episodes in, I think. It's very fun, even from the start. It's so interesting to have seen some of the more recent ones and seen the very early ones and missed all of the middle part. And like, there's obviously a lot of character development that has happened there.
So I was meant to just guest on it because, you know, I like playing RPGs with Nick. So Nick says, do you want to just guest on it? They need a guide to this wizard city. So I went, yeah, sure. I have a go-to changing paladin character that I don't mind throwing into this mix. And then I was shanghaied by the party into the rest of the adventure. The rest of the adventure, in Nick's words, was only meant to take like 4 sessions or so. Ends up taking the best part of a year and a half.
Yeah, sounds about
gameplay
right.
to get through.
So it turned into a whole year and a half.
Whole year and a half, yeah. Became a year and a half of campaigning. We went through, I believe, 3 or 4 different players as well until it finally settled on the final Guild of Icons, which was me, Iris, Protected Brioche, and Pixel Podium. So that campaign is now, I believe, concluded. And
there's also all the side games that have been offshoots of it as well, right?
It's been Baboonmas and Guild of Icons Adventures, Nordmark started up, which you're a co-GM of a lot of the time.
Are we ever going to get you into Nordmark?
Maybe. You asked me earlier if I do more of the hard side of role-playing games. Generally, I don't, kind of ish. It's weird. But I don't play a lot of 5th edition. I run a game of 4th edition for me and some friends. We'll be starting up a campaign of Lancer soon on Nick's channel, in theory. Touch wood. Eventually, I'll get to finishing the bits of that. I believe someone I know very, very close to me at the moment is making a character, possibly some type of scientist.
I can't wait for Lancer, man. I'm so excited for that. I think one of the things that I would love to see more of in Cybertopia is mechs, because mechs are just so fun.
You can't just dump mechs into things.
I mean, when Ray came to me with his idea of, I want to play a mech pilot, I was like, fuck, I don't know how mechs are going to fit into this world. Everyone else is just a normal person. You want to bring a big-ass robot. But because of the limitations of the points system in this game, a mech is balanced against a sleazy spy. You can still only add so much to the dice rolls. And I want to see more mechs, because mechs are so fun. And that's why when I did the Halloween special with Nick and Bree and Envis, that I just stuck a whole hanger of mechs in there, because I just was like, yes, mechs!
You had the hardest task of keeping the 3 most chaotic gremlins I know in line for your special, and they pushed your system to the limits.
Yeah,
I watched the live version of it. They took you for a long, difficult ride there.
Well, and then I had to nerf them for the Christmas special that we did as the follow-up, and they were still all over it. Yeah.
They're so good, all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Say all 3 of them are in the Lancer campaign as well, so I'm going to have to deal with that at some juncture.
It's going to be a time. Even in just the chat in the run-up to the prep and stuff, it's already off the rails. And Nick changing his choices on his setup every 5 minutes as well. It's very fun to see all this. Do you have a favourite system or a game that you've played that is like the best, funnest game that you've had?
My go-to is Powered by the Apocalypse, as I said earlier. I played a lot of Apocalypse World. The Sprawl and the Veil are 2 Cyberpunk Powered by the Apocalypse games. Sprawl hews very close to Shadowrun and Cyberpunk, very close to all the playbooks in there are very much like Cyberpunk Red's characters or Cyberpunk 2020's characters. The Veil is a much more conceptual game where all your stats are emotions and everyone's watching different versions of augmented reality at the same time, so it's much more of a thematic game. So there's 2 flavors of Powered by Apocalypse there for Cyberpunk. I also really like Blades in the Dark, which is, I suppose, a direct successor of Powered by the Apocalypse, of taking characters who are fundamentally all very similar to each other. Like generally, they're all thieves or scoundrels in the case of things like Scum and Villainy, and finding a way to make all these very similar character concepts gel together and work together as a unit on heists, on missions, on whatever things they're engaging in at the time. I really do like Blades in the Dark.
I've been really wanting to get into a Monster a Week campaign. Played a one-shot of it before at a con, and it was awful because the GM was not good.
Oh, no.
But I really want to play a good session or campaign of it. So, yeah, deep on the lookout for that one.
Hit me up sometime. I'll see what I can do about it.
As if you don't have enough to do.
As if I don't have enough role-playing games on my plate at the moment. Yes, I know.
Have you been in any other actual plays other than Guild of Icons and Cybertopia?
I believe those are the only two that I've properly been in, at least as far as there's any recorded information about. Years and years ago, before I moved to Sweden, I tried doing role-playing game streams on Hitbox and later Mixer, which, you know, it's not Twitch, so
that's going back some, man. Yeah.
It's going some, yes, but I ran 4th edition on that using Tabletop Simulator, which was great fun there.
The original VTT.
The original VTT. But yeah, that's primarily me. It's mainly on his Kirsten's channel and here on Cybertopia. The only other time I've done actual play stuff was for Omen Investigations.
Oh, yeah.
For Sean, and I was in the Christmas special for that with Al.
I should listen back to that. I didn't know Al was in it as well.
Yeah, it was me and Al as the IT department, and the Omen Christmas special is very much like a get as many role players as you can into a mass...
It was mad.
Madness of 500 simultaneous threads of everything going wrong at its Christmas party. Very similar to how you did House of Cards, only you didn't go and make yourself have to deal with 20 different players. You kept everything in groups of 4.
Yeah, I remember when Sean did that, and I know he nearly had a nervous breakdown afterwards trying to sort it all out and stuff. But like, I had so much fear about House of Cards, bringing that all together, and it worked. It worked so well in the end. And even like where there was crossovers between the groups, because none of the groups were ever really supposed to interact. And then the group on the roof was like, I want to put something in the air vents. And I was like, well, I've got to have that affect one of the other groups at least. So
you stitched it together really, really well. I'm actually impressed that the people that the second round team knocked out was something that we encountered and didn't know why. It's like, but there's a person knocked out in the alleyway. What's the result of this? And I listened to the final production. It's like, oh, it was that team knocking them out before they went to the roof. So, yes, you stitched this together so well.
It was difficult when running it because obviously some groups did things before other groups did their sessions. And then having to try and shoehorn some of this stuff in so there is a little bit of a reference here and there. It really scared the shit out of me until I actually got to doing it. And then it wasn't actually that bad trying to slot the bits together. It was difficult deciding how to slice it up and in what order to put them in.
Stitching together the game.
Slicing it all together, so slicing it up and putting stuff in an order that makes sense, because obviously some of it is happening at the same time and some of it is happening chronologically before or after, and also trying to keep the pacing going for the listeners. It was quite a challenge. And then, of course, not every group was in every episode of the 4-part finale. You guys were mostly at the start. And then I had to kind of bring it back to you at the end just so that you'd have your final moment where you're running towards the door with the key and Sir Ingram is upstairs having a bit of a brawl.
And then everything just explodes, stretches, confusion.
I do like a big bang to end it all.
Good way to end a campaign is like just blow everything up. No complaints there at all.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to see how you all deal with the fallout from that and where you go next. It kind of feels like we've come to a close here, and before Craig completely shits the bed, let's kind of wrap it up. Where can we find you online? What projects and stuff are you working on? What can we expect from Keith in the future?
So you can find me on the Fediverse at the moment. Left Twitter a long time ago, but
good for you. You
can still find me occasionally posting KIUYNSD at peoplemaking.games. The Mastodon social one in the slug still just redirects there because Mastodon's great for that. You can find the game projects I work on in my spare time and my procedural content generation stuff at kaYnsd@itch.io. And you can find some of the stuff I've worked on in the RPG community, specifically stuff for Sandy Pod Games. I did TRPG layouts for Americana and The Forest and the initial pass for Monster Care Squad.
I did not know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Monster Care Squad's awesome.
It's
I should
great.
totally get you involved in the rewrite for Cybertopia.
Awesome. Looking forward to that one. And I also did the layout for the Roleplayer's Guide to Heists for the Far Horizons co-op. So
Nice.
yeah, feel free to check those out. I don't get any money for them because I got paid in advance for those. I didn't get royalties for it, but I really think they're just some of the most beautiful books I've ever worked on.
Yeah,
I've got my name in the books. I've seen copies of Monster Care Squad available for sale before. There's no more left available for sale, but I got to see my stuff on the store on stands for an RPG shop and went, I worked on that.
You saw it in an actual shop. That would be cool.
Saw it in an actual role-playing game shop in Stockholm. I was very, very happy.
Awesome. All right. And I guess I'll put the shout outs when the Lancer campaign finally gets going. And I'm really looking forward to playing in that with you. It'll be fun to be on the other side of the screen.
Yeah, a few months from now, we'll all be in giant robots. Except for me, I'll be running tons and tons of giant robots going, oh, God, they've blown them all up again.
How do I stop these people? Why does Ben keep on blowing everything up?
How do I stop these gremlins from destroying my plants?
Oh, it's going to be so good. All right, well, I mean, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. I am absolutely stoked to get on to the next stage of all of this in the next months or so, whenever it does end up going back to Cybertopia world. I've got some other stuff that I'll be doing before we get into Season 2. I've got a world-building, faction-building game that I'm really excited to get everybody into. And yeah, just excited for everything. This is great, and thanks very much.
Pleasure talking to you, Ben. And yeah, can't wait. Absolutely can't wait for Season 2.